All right, so we are testing out my radio show, Why the Health Not? So you're going to get to listen to me babble for 15 minutes or so and try to come up with something useful to say. So I'm testing out some equipment here, testing out the show, seeing what this is all about, debating whether I should try, let's see. It says you can call in with your computer. You have to upgrade. So no, we'll be calling with the phone. Let's see, left, right. And welcome to Why the Health Not Radio, where we take a no-nonsense approach to your health and your healing. I'm Matt Marchant. Thank you for tuning in today. Today is going to be a test show. That means that I get to run through all these little gadgets and try out all the buttons, pressing them all repeatedly, trying out different voices to see kind of whether I sound better projecting really loud or kind of talking a little softer. So you're going to hear a lot of different things in this show. I might sound a bit schizophrenic, and part of that is true, the schizophrenic part. So today what we're going to do on the show, in this test show, is we are going to run through and we're going to take a look at the topic of forgiveness. Now, I find this topic to be very fascinating. It's my opinion that forgiveness is often misunderstood. And I know it's misunderstood on my end. I wonder how you feel about the topic of forgiveness as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cover through a few things. Again, this is a test show, so I get to test out all my little fumbles and mumbles and jumbles and all that fun stuff and see how many times I can say the word and see how much time I can accumulate with dead air. That's always fun. So let's jump right in to our lesson here, our topic here of forgiveness. What is forgiveness? And we're going to go through today the myths of forgiveness. So this is what we're going to talk about. What I hope happens for you, the listener, is this: that after today, after this 15 minutes of listening to me kind of ramble on, hopefully I can stay on topic, you'll have a better understanding of what forgiveness is for you. Not my understanding of forgiveness, but your understanding of forgiveness. And then at the end, I'll give you some things that I will offer up to you on things you can do after this show is done. So let's go into what does forgiveness even mean? What does that mean when we talk about forgiveness? Well, here's two different definitions. For me, when we're looking at any topic, any word, I find it very, very important to come to a working and personal definition. Working meaning no definition is set in stone, that any definition that we have today is always open to be reinterpreted tomorrow, but it works for us today. Thus, a working definition, and two, a personal definition, meaning it's what it means to you. Some of these topics that we're going to talk about on this show are very personalized topics. Case in point, forgiveness. What does that even mean? But what does it mean for you? My definition might not resonate with you, might not mean much to you, and I'm okay with that. The important thing that I see is that we all come away with what it means for us personally and having a working definition. So here are two definitions. Let's run through them. Number one, defining forgiveness is releasing our resentment, restoring our compassion, and remembering our gratitude. That's a mouthful. And that's a lot right there. If we were just to sit down and think about that for a while, there's a lot being said. In my opinion, there's a lot being said in that sentence. So I'll repeat it one more time. Here is one possible definition of forgiveness. Releasing our resentment, restoring our compassion, and remembering our gratitude. Second definition. Acknowledging our victim consciousness and embracing our creator consciousness. Another, in my opinion, very valuable, very meaningful set of words in that sentence. Let's run through that one more time. Another possible definition of forgiveness is acknowledging our victim consciousness and embracing our creator consciousness. So there's a lot going on there. We're not going to dive too much into the definition here of forgiveness, although we could spend many minutes and a lot of time here talking about just those two definitions. We'll save that for another day, but let's now go into, now that we've kind of discovered or kind of have thrown out in the air here a couple definitions, let's go through a couple myths of forgiveness. We're first going to expose a myth of forgiveness and then talk about the possible truth to forgiveness. Now, if you caught that word I used, I said possible truth, meaning it may be true for you, it may not be true for you. But let's take a look. So here's a myth of forgiveness. Forgiveness is forgetting. Here would be the opposite. The possible truth is forgiveness is boundary setting. What that means for me is this, that when I am forgiving, it does not mean that I forget. It just means now that I set boundaries. Interesting point. Second one, the second myth that we're going to talk about of forgiveness. Forgiveness is covering up the past. Similar to that last one of number one of forgiveness is forgetting. So this number two is forgiveness is covering up the past, and the opposite, the possible truth to forgiveness is forgiveness is creating a new present. I find that interesting too. So I'm not covering up the past. I'm not looking back to cover it up, I should say, because forgiveness is absolutely looking at the past. But what I'm doing is I'm creating a new present moment. You see the difference there? One is looking to hide, cover up the past. One, in creating a new present, we're acknowledging the past. Maybe it's kind of inherently in that point there, but we're focusing on the present. And again, these points, these myths, we could go on for a long time talking about really what these mean and going into more depth. We're not going to in this test show of mine, but we'll definitely do another show on forgiveness. Again, I think there's a lot to be said about forgiveness. I think it's very misunderstood. I think the term has also been hijacked by religion. We'll get into that later. So here's another one, number 3. Forgiveness starts and ends with, quote unquote, I forgive you. That's a myth. Forgiveness does not begin or end with the words, I forgive you. But here's a possible truth to that. Forgiveness begins with, in my experience. I find that to be definitely true for me. Forgiveness is not about, I forgive you, and yes, I forgive you, but with the words, in my experience. Meaning, we're owning our own experience of the past events. That's a key point for myself. I wonder how you feel about that. So, next one. Forgiveness is a sign of weakness. That's a myth. I believe the possible truth is forgiveness is a sign of emotional depth. Next, forgiveness is setting another free. Well, what if you heard this? What if you heard this said? That's not setting another free, but forgiveness is setting yourself free. Key difference for me. A lot of times in the past, I've been reluctant to forgive because I viewed this myth of forgiveness as, well, if I forgive, I'm setting this person free. This person who in my mind is guilty is being set free. But really, the truth is, I'm setting myself free in the process of forgiveness. Next, forgiveness is a readiness to reconcile with another. That's not true for me, and that's definitely a myth. For me, forgiveness is not about a readiness to reconcile. The truth of it is, forgiveness is a readiness to reflect on ourselves. So rather than forgiveness being this, I have to get ready, go talk to this person, okay, shake hands, give a hug, smile, go, oh, yeah, okay, I forgive you, buddy, sure. It's not about that. It's not about reconciling with another, but it's about a readiness to reflect on ourselves. And as we'll see, and I've got to hustle up here, we're chewing up a lot of time here with some of this. As you'll see here, it has nothing to do with the other person. Or maybe you won't see it. We'll find out. So what does that mean to you? That forgiveness, does that bring some clarity to you? If I share that with you, that readiness, that forgiveness is not about reconciliation, but it's all about reflection. And not about reflecting on others, but about reflecting on yourself. Let's continue. What does forgiveness mean? Well, forgiveness means, this is the myth part, forgiveness means ceasing to be angry. Oh, I have bought into that myth for a very long time, that, if I am forgiving you, I have to give up my right to be angry. Now, another class that I teach and a show that I'll do sometime on becoming friends with anger, some interesting stuff that, what's wrong with being angry? What if we could become friends with anger? But that's a whole nother show. So the truth of that would be, forgiveness means becoming friends with our anger. And that's what the opposite is becoming friends with our anger. That would be the possible truth. So the next myth of forgiveness is pain removing. I find that to be a myth. It's not removing pain. What if you found this to be true? That forgiveness is pain revealing. Let's run through that just one more time real quick. The myth is forgiveness is pain removing. The possible truth is forgiveness is pain revealing. Interesting. Next, forgiveness is obligatory. You're obligated to forgive. Wrong answer. That's a myth. What if you found out that the possible truth to forgiveness is this? Forgiveness is optional. And let's throw in one more word in that sentence. Forgiveness is always optional. I threw in 2 words. If one is good, sometimes 2 is better. So the myth again is forgiveness is obligatory, and the possible truth is forgiveness is optional. Here's another one. To forgive another is righteous. You are righteous, my brother. You're righteous, my sister, if you forgive. Isn't that what a lot of people in old books have mentioned and said, and I should say reportedly have mentioned and said, I think that's a myth. I don't think to forgive makes us righteous. I think, now listen to this might knock your socks off, so you might want to sit down for this one. But to forgive another is actually arrogant. Yeah, actually, it's arrogant to tell someone, you screwed up. You did it wrong. I did it right. I am forgiving you. There's a lot that could be said on that one. I wish we had more time to dive into that one, but think about that. And last one, as we're closing up here, is forgiveness is all about forgiving others. That would be the myth, that forgiveness is about forgiving others. Whereas the possible truth is, and I think this is a very probable truth, if you ask me, is that forgiveness is only about forgiving ourselves. Only about forgiving ourselves. So there we have some basic definitions of forgiveness. I always invite people to consider making your own definition on forgiveness. Consider what I've kind of thrown out there. If it works for you, take it, borrow it, but really come up with what does forgiveness mean to you? If we don't have a definition of a word, if a word is not clearly defined, it's pretty much a dead word. It has no meaning, no value to us. That's my take on words, and that's why I like to define things. And then we went through quite a few different myths and possible truths to forgiveness. That's the show. Thank you for joining me on my test show. I hope you were somewhat entertained and informed, and I look forward to seeing you in possible shows in the future, possible shows on anger, on self-sabotage. And again, this channel is Why the Health Not Radio, where we take a no-nonsense approach to health and healing. This is Matt Marchant, your host. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day or evening. Bye-bye.